It's 2024. How could the polls be so wrong again? Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is Kimberly McNabb. Kimberly, what are your just out of your thoughts? What are your thoughts on how the polling worked this election cycle after supposedly it had been fixed since the 2020 and 2022 cycles?
Well, I guess that they're all leftists and they want to be loved by their own party, and they want to motivate their own party to get out there and vote. And, it's just human nature. You want to feel like you're on the winning team. So if you're a leftist, well, of course, you wanted Kamala Harris to win. So you want to motivate those people like, yeah, we're the winning team. Yeah, right. Look how far ahead we are. Damn my credibility.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one that hit the news cycle, I believe it was 2 days before the election, the Des Moines Register poll by Ann Seltzer. And she is, and we'll put a picture of her, supposedly she is the most accurate pollster in the United States.
Or was.
And honestly, with her putting Kamala Harris 6 points over Donald Trump in ruby red Iowa,
it just made no sense.
It made no sense, and here's what happened. It sent shockwaves throughout the U.S. political environment, and CNN was reporting it. The New York Times was reporting it. Everywhere you could go was people that were reporting this, saying that this is an indication that Kamala Harris is going to win in a landslide election, because if she can win the Midwest, this was going to show what she was going to do for the rest of the United States. And honestly, this is my opinion, so I don't want to get sued by Ann, but this is my opinion. I personally think that she sold her soul to the Democrat Party and released that poll with the intent of influencing the election in favor of Kamala Harris. I said it.
And demoralizing the Republicans as well, because I'll be honest, when I heard that, I was nervous about the election, not going to lie, but I was like, you know what? I think I need to turn off podcasts and news channels for the next few days. I did everything I could to help Donald Trump. We voted for him like day one of early voting. We, talk about it on our podcast. We talk about it with our family members.
We were poll watchers for the Republican Party.
Poll watchers. So it's like, okay, there's nothing else I can do. It's like trying to get your child ready for a test. And then once they go off to school that day, you're like, okay, well,
I did it.
I did everything I could. It's up to them. So I just wanted to put my head in the sand for 3 days, and I imagine I'm not the only one. So, yeah, it did have its intended effect to demoralize Republicans and boost the morale of the Democrats.
Yeah, I personally think that this was done with the intent, and I think the vast majority of polling companies are run by liberal organizations. I want to say they're liberal. Now, there's some that are supposedly neutral, but give me a break. It just seems as though that it was showing in the by and by that Harris was winning small, and they always caveat, within the margin of error. It's a toss-up, but Harris is winning, but within the margin of error. And when you see that, and especially this Des Moines Register poll by Ann Seltzer, it's almost as if, again, they're demoralizing Republicans and saying, look, it's in the bag. It's in the bag, so you might as well not get out and vote. You might as well stay home because you're going to lose anyway. Save your time. It's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, Nevada has one of the best methods of controlling information, and not controlling information in a bad way, but they do not release the election results until the last person has voted in the state.
Yeah, it's to prevent people from manipulating and using it for or against one party or another.
Yeah, I mean, if you're voting in poll station A and you're before you get to the 100-foot line and you're looking at your phone and you see, let's just say you're voting in Georgia. Hey, candidate X has run away with the vote, and you look and you're like, God, I got 2 hours left. They already won, so I'm just going to go ahead and get out of line and not vote. And the Nevada way of doing the elections, prevents that from happening because you're not going to know. I still have a chance,
Right. Well, I mean, it reminds me of Iowa, the primary, the Republican primary. They were calling it for Trump just so, I mean, within, an hour or two? Right. I'm like, no, I want every vote to be counted before, because, I was rooting for DeSantis.
Right. Well, I mean, it's interesting, like pick a New York state, right? And so, the polls opened in New York State. The polls closed in New York State. We can call that Kamala Harris has won New York State, without counting any of the votes. You just like dun dun, the music comes on, and then we've called New York State for Kamala Harris. Now it's true, but that didn't even look to see what the tally was going to be. How
close was it? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So, so it did. Just even us personally, that Des Moines Register poll did have us in a small funk, for a while. But I used a bunch of different polling systems, and I made a prediction. And I shared it with Kimberly, and I shared it with some friends. In retrospect, I really wish I'd made a video about it and posted it and said, here's what my prediction is. But my prediction was that Trump was going to get 312 electoral college votes, and I picked all the states, and I went 50 for 50. I went 50 for 50, and so Kimberly had some friends of hers that had kind of dismal rankings and things like that.
Much closer election.
And so one of the things, powerful website, really powerful website, and we're putting it up now, and we'll do a picture-in-picture. So I hope this works where we're synchronizing our voices, because I'm doing a screen recording. But I highly encourage people to play around with this every election cycle, but it's cool to play with now. But it's called 270towin.com. And in it has a bunch of preloaded polls that are in there. And on top of that, you can manipulate the map and create your own pathway to victory and stuff like that. So it's really kind of a powerful tool. And you can download it and take a screenshot of it and export it and stuff like that and share it with people, which is what I did with Kimberly and some of my friends. But on the screen right now, it had the 2024 consensus of what the state right before the election kicked off. And you can see that in this scenario, Democrats, Kamala Harris had 226 electoral college votes, and Donald Trump and the Republicans had 230. And so you can see that the states that are in red were either solid or leaning Republican. States in blue and light blue were solid or leaning towards the Democrats. And then you have these tan states, which are the swing states, right? Now, the map is continuously evolving, right? So this map is different than it was even a few days ago, and it had Arizona as tan. And so right now, unfortunately, I can't go back in time. We're making this video after the election instead of before the election, but still, if you actually, you know what, I can actually manipulate this and make it a toss-up. So yeah, so this is how the map was prior to the election. And so in this instance, let me reframe the status of the electoral college vote. So it was Harris at 226, and in this scenario, which was prior to the election, Arizona was labeled a swing state. So 219 for the Republicans in this scenario. And so the cool thing about this map is you're able to go to reset it, and you can go to the map library, and they have all of these different polls that you can choose and see, what it is. So, the Cook Political Report poll, we'll, click on that, and, it has the same thing, 226, 219. You can go to the 224 consensus, and it has this. You can go to the 538 model, which is, out of, you need 270 to win, but a lot of people don't realize yet there's 538 electoral votes out there. So there's another website, the 538 model, and, it has this going on. So anyway, what I used was a model that is doesn't really have a lot of name recognition, I don't think, as far as I've seen in the mainstream media. Atlas Intel is you just Google that, Atlas, like the demigod, and Intel is in short for intelligence. Atlas Intel, and they are a Brazilian polling company, and their model was the basis of what I used my model off of, the information I used. And the interesting thing about that I feel that a lot of the polls that are done in the United States are done with a political slant in order to, on the by and by, disadvantage the Republicans over the Democrats. I'm saying that the quiet part out loud. I mean, the 2016 polls showed that Clinton was dominating Trump and everything. And again, I think they did that to suppress the Republican vote. And it turned out they were way wrong. And so they all said, oh, this is horrible. We had lost credibility, but we'll get it right for the 2020. And they show Biden with a landslide. And honestly, he eked it out. I mean, he really 10,000 votes here, 30,000 votes there. Mm-hmm. And so, they're wrong again. And so anyway, this Atlas Intel, company, like I said, is Brazilian. They don't have any skin in the game. They don't. It's not that they're leaning Republican or leaning Democrats. They're running their polls, and they do all kinds of polling and services all globally. But still, their poll, what I felt was the most neutral poll, and they had the exact same 50 out of 50, 312 electoral votes that I had as well. So let's go ahead and just kind of show. So we'll do the 2024 actual. So this is what they showed 2 days prior to the election. And it shows 226 for Harris and 312 for Trump. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And so, they already knew in advance that the blue wall was not going to hold, and that it was going to be a red wall. And, again, Georgia, they're right there. North Carolina, they're correct. Nevada, Arizona, they were 50 out of 50. So we both got the exact same perfect state after state. And again, in retrospect, I really wish I had made a video with my
prediction. We have the saved messages and screenshots, so you can start building that line of credibility.
Yeah. In fact, I'll put a screenshot up here that shows the time date stamp of me sending that to some of my friends, and it again, it's before the election, and so hopefully I can get some credibility there. But still, we have to take a look at ourselves as a nation of doing these polls, and I know you have been a ardent non-supporter of polls. You hate polls.
Yeah, they just drive me crazy. I mean, all you can do is all you can do. Leave it all on the mat, and once you get in that test room, like, okay, I studied. Just do my best. But I think all these polls slant left because, the U.S.-based ones at least, because the left has overtaken the institutions. I mean, it's just evident of that, whether it's media, whether it's polling, and I get why Marxism and this victim mentality that they subscribe to is appealing. Like, nothing's my fault. There's something wrong with everyone else. I mean, it's a tale as old as time, and it feeds right into human nature. So the polling people are just another victim of it.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, with the media, there's this big kerfuffle with the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos overriding their editorial board in supporting a candidate for president.
Yeah,
right?
He didn't want to.
He wanted to. He wanted, and I correctly believe him, he wanted to maintain neutrality because the news should be neutral. It should be if you are purporting to be a news organization, you should be reporting that water is wet and that the sky is blue, like the old BBC. They're slightly changing with the times, and I think leaning more into having editorial instead of just the news. But if you're purporting to be news, you need to just report. There are two candidates for president of the major parties. One is Kamala Harris on the Democratic ticket, and one is Donald Trump on the Republican ticket, and we wish them well to both. I mean, that's what the news organization should say.
Well, I've heard commentary thinking, oh, Jeff Bezos may be red-pilled. No. I think he's just a smart businessman that sees the writing on the wall. He sees, CNN's numbers going down, MSNBC's numbers going down, and podcasts and other media are going up. And he's like, you know what? I don't want to go down as much as those guys. What are the guys that are going down doing? They're being partisan hacks.
Right.
Maybe we shouldn't be a partisan hack, and we won't lose as many subscribers. And yes, the Washington Post did lose a lot of subscribers from that, but he's probably thinking long term.
Yeah, of course he's thinking long term, and in restoring the integrity. And I know the Washington Post employees probably just had their necks spin
integrity.
around.
What's that?
What's integrity? But restoring the integrity of the news institution. And that is what it is. If you are putting an editorial slant on everything you do, then you're just feeding in that's why people don't subscribe. That's why people in Texas don't subscribe to the Washington Post. That's why people in Texas don't subscribe to the New York Times. It's people in New York subscribe to the New York Times, and the elitists maybe throughout that only want to hear a certain slant. It was kind of funny. I was watching CNN just after President Biden gave his speech. It was a pretty short speech, and I thought it was pretty good. And a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the best speech ever." Calm down, calm down. It wasn't the best speech that was ever written. There's a couple of people that are at the front of that line. I'd say Martin Luther King Jr. is kind of up there. The Reagan on the border in between East and West Germany might be kind of up there as well. President Biden's speech that he just gave today that was 20 minutes long. I'm not thinking it's in the top 10, but it was a good speech. And but one of the things that the CNN commentators were saying is that the Republicans have really gotten good at messaging and controlling the messaging, and that that the Republicans have a single source of news that they get, and it's Fox News. And so there's no deviation, and the left doesn't have a source of news that is unified. And I was like, what? And the thing is after they said it, they didn't laugh. So like MSNBC, apparently.
Case in point, once one... All the leftist news outlets called J.D. Vance weird, as if on cue.
On cue, yeah. After Wall said it.
I mean, they repeat each other. Like, no, you guys are towing that line pretty well.
But with a straight face, they're like the left does not have a news source that allows them to get MSNBC. I mean, now. Maybe they mean news, because MSNBC is not news. So maybe they are right that there's not a single source of news. MSNBC is 100% editorial and just negative Nancy's on anything Republican. So maybe that's what they mean, that there's not, because Fox News actually has news that comes out. They have editorial and opinion shows as well, but they have actual physical news and breaking news and just reporting. And I guess maybe they mean MSNBC isn't fit that category, and they're just 100% editorial. So maybe, but still they have MSNBC, they have CNN. It was kind of funny, CNN saying that about itself, because I would have to say 80% of the news anchors on CNN are anti-Republican. I mean, they have them on the show, but they step on them and interrupt them, and Republicans that are on the show and stuff like that. But still, I just thought that was the pot calling the kettle black.
Well, they're just not self-aware,
right?
At all.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, what's the deal with polls? Ann Seltzer, again, in my opinion, I'm not accusing her. I'm just saying this is my opinion. Sold out to the Democrat Party, lost all of her credibility on Twitter. There's been a number of people that said, enjoy your retirement, and some people are saying like, well, the Democrats thought she was the Oracle of Delphi, and it turns out after climbing to the top of the mountain with our sacrifice, we missed out. So she's definitely not that. But I really think she sold her soul in order to influence influence the election, and shame on you, Ann, for doing that. But still, don't believe the polls. Get out and vote. Your vote matters. It's now clear just how much your vote matters. And Donald Trump is going to secure 312 electoral votes and 5 million votes in the popular vote, and has a clear mandate, and was able to do it in spite of all of the negative polling that the Republicans got.
Yep. So next election, don't fall for the polls.
Yep. Don't fall for it. So thanks so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.